This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to a new season of the award-winning Adventures in Compliance, the podcast where we look at the Sherlock Holmes short stories, movies, novels, and related material from the angle of compliance. The Case-Book of Sherlock Holmes is the final set of 12 out of a total of 56 Sherlock Holmes short stories published by Arthur Conan Doyle. These were published, of course, in the Strand Magazine between October 1921 and April 1927. The books are two of the short stories, The Adventure of the Veiled Lodger and The Old Shuscombe Old Place, were the last of the Sherlock Holmes works protected by copyright. Although some of the stories are comparable with earlier works, many people feel that this is a lesser offering of Holmes, to which I wholeheartedly disagree. I hope that you will join us for this exploration of the final collected works of Sherlock Holmes as we take a deep dive literally into business ethics, leadership, investigative strategies, pattern recognition, and perhaps even portending the use of AI and generative AI as a tool for the compliance professional. There are some great stories in here, and I know you will enjoy them, and I hope you will enjoy this season of Adventures in Compliance really as much as I've enjoyed reading the stories. Today we're going to take up one of my least favorite of the entire Sherlock Holmes oeuvre, which is The Adventure of the Three Garridebs. It appeared in the Strand Magazine in 1924, and then after the synopsis of the story, we'll take a look at some cultural issues. We're going to have a quick word from our network sponsor, Ethico, then we'll be right back.
If you're a compliance officer, middle managers are crucial in getting your programs from you to your frontline employees. But how do we activate those managers and get them on our side? Ethico's new Middle Manager Toolkit equips you with the skills needed to empower your managers, to promote a culture where ethical behavior thrives and employees feel empowered to speak up. Learn how to turn frontline managers into ethical leaders with our new white paper, Empowering Middle Managers as Ethics Champions. And did I mention you can get the whole toolkit for free? Head to ethico.com to download the full toolkit today.
For the upcoming Compliance Week celebration in November, check out The Compliance Kids. It's my 3-book children's series on compliance and compliance professionals for children. But they make great gifts and great training tools for your employees. You can check it out on Amazon.com. We've linked to it in the show notes. Beyond being simply an anagram of R.I. Badger, which is, of course, utterly meaningless, the name Garrideb is scarcely one that would have sparked even a glimmer of recognition among the readership of the Strand, which means it was probably the most mysterious element in this entire story. There are initially 2 Garridebs. One is named John, claiming to be a wealthy American lawyer, Rutrow, and the other is Nathan, who comes to Holmes with a breaking news of a remarkable offer. The third, now deceased Garrideb, is a millionaire land tycoon who has bequeathed his entire fortune of $15 million US to John on the understanding that he will share it equally with 2 other bearers of persons with the same name, i.e. Garrideb. John has contacted Nathan, and Nathan has contacted Holmes with the following query: help me find the third. Of course, Holmes is immediately suspicious. Beyond a variety of minor discrepancies in the lawyer's stories, he cannot quite put his finger on why. Nathan is an eccentric, elderly man with a variety of interests and collecting passions, but he is scarcely a rich man, and besides, John has said or done nothing to make the older man distrust him. Yet he clearly does. The plot thickens when John announces he's finally discovered a third Garrideb, a Birmingham-based businessman named Howard, who recently placed an advertisement in the newspaper. Holmes is not impressed. The ad is so littered with Americanisms that it is clear that John himself placed it. But when John insists that Nathan travel to meet the man, it all becomes clear. For hadn't Holmes himself employed a similar deception before, particularly in the case of the missing naval treaty? And wouldn't he do it again in the adventure of the retired colorman? John wants Nathan out of the way so he can visit the old man's room himself. Holmes decides to involve Scotland Yard, and he quickly learns that he could have saved himself a lot of thinking if he had only done this before. John Garrideb is actually James Winters, sometimes known as James Moorcock, and in other times known as Killer Evans. The three men died at his hands in America, and after he busted out of prison and escaped to London, another was murdered here, one Roger Pestbury, a Chicago forger who happened to have lived in Nathan's home before him. The trap is laid and the killer is captured, but not before he shoots Watson in the leg and himself is knocked out cold by Holmes with the butt of his revolver. Off he goes to prison, and down in the basement of the house, of course, they find the dead Presbury's counterfeiting equipment, and poor Nathan Garrideb never gets his $5 million and winds up in a nursing home, depressed beyond all measure. Given the nature of this story, I thought it might be interesting to look at some of the culture lessons, as Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories often provide rich lessons in corporate governance and compliance, although I typically don't take a look at that issue. But here, in the adventure of the Three Garridebs, Holmes unravels a cunning scheme designed to exploit greed and deception. For compliance professionals, this tale offers a valuable insight into the importance of fostering corporate culture rooted in ethical behavior and vigilance. So we're going to look at three key lessons derived from the story. Number one, the power of purpose, aligning culture with mission. In the Three Garridebs, Nathan Garrideb's greed blinds him to the absurdity of the proposition made by the con man, a.k.a. John Garrideb. This illustrates how misaligned priorities focused on personal gain rather than shared goals can lead to disastrous outcomes. In the corporate setting, misaligned incentives or unclear organizational missions can cultivate a culture where employees prioritize individual benefits over collective purpose. Compliance professionals must ensure an organization's mission is well communicated and that every employee understands their role in achieving it. Training programs should emphasize the importance of shared values and ethical behaviors in fulfilling a company's broad objectives. 2, detecting red flags. The role of a transparent culture. Holmes quickly identifies inconsistencies in John Garrideb's story, questioning its plausibility and seeking evidence. This underscores the importance of questioning assumptions and encouraging transparency. A strong corporate culture values open communication and empowers employees to raise concerns without fear of retaliation. Organizations should build systems that encourage identification, reporting of potential misconduct. By promoting a culture where skepticism is valued and whistleblowers are protected, companies can identify and address red flags before they escalate into full-blown legal violations. Number 3, the danger of complacency. Continuous vigilance is necessary. Nathan Garrideb's lack of curiosity and critical thinking allow him to be manipulated. This complacency mirrors the risks faced by many companies that fail to maintain vigilance in their compliance programs. Corporate culture should emphasize the importance of ongoing education and ongoing vigilance, whether it be monitoring, whether it be auditing, whether it be using AI to facilitate both. Compliance programs must not be static, but must evolve with changing regulations, market dynamics, geopolitical risk, and internal risk profiles. Regular audits, refresher training, and real-world scenario exercises can help reinforce a culture of alertness and adaptability. Holmes' ability to cut through deception in the adventure of the Three Garridebs is a reminder that critical ethical decision-making, transparency, and vigilance are cornerstones of a resilient corporate culture. Compliance professionals should play a crucial role in embedding these values throughout an organization. By fostering a culture aligned with purpose, encouraging transparency and promoting vigilance, companies can safeguard themselves against the risk of misconduct and ensuring their long-term success. As Holmes might say, elementary, my dear Watson, but building a culture requires a deliberate effort and, of course, leadership from the top. To the final collected works of Sherlock Holmes, the Case-Book of Sherlock Holmes. As I mentioned at the start of this podcast, Ethico is the Compliance Podcast Network sponsor, and their management toolkit is a great tool for you to use. It's available free, and check out the link in the show notes for more information on it. I hope you will join me on Tuesday, November 19th, for the first annual Agora Awards for Excellence in Podcasting, hosted by the Compliance Podcast Network. The event will be from noon to 3, and we're going to link to it in the show notes. It's at no charge. The Compliance Podcast Network will honor Mary Shirley and Lisa Fine, the co-founders of Great Women in Compliance, for their work leading the GWIC community and literally changing the world through podcasting. The Compliance Podcast Network and Adventures in Compliance will be off the week of Thanksgiving, so our next episode will be Monday, December 2nd, where we'll take up the adventures of the Three Garridebs. If you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes, if you have any favorite short stories or novels or movies or television shows, I'd love to have you come on and co-host with me on an upcoming episode of Adventures in Compliance. So please reach out to me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. The award-winning Adventures in Compliance is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.